Model evaluation is an integral part of the model development process. It helps to find the best model that represents our data and how well the chosen model will work in the future. Evaluating model performance with the data used for training is not acceptable in data science because it can easily generate over-optimistic and over-fitted models. You cannot use the same data for evaluation which you used for training. So there are two methods of evaluating models in data science: holdout and cross-validation. To avoid overfitting, both methods use a test set not seen by the model to evaluate model performance. Now, it is not recommended to use the data which we use to build the model to evaluate it. This is because our model will simply remember the whole training set and will therefore always predict the correct label for any point in the training set. This is known as overfitting. So, it already knows that this is the answer for this question because it has remembered the whole training data set. So we want the model to solve it on its own, not just remember and blurt out the answer. So one of the model evaluation technique is holdout. This technique is often associated with high variability, since differences in the training and test dataset can result in meaningful differences in the estimate of accuracy. So holdout is the technique which is highly variable, and the differences in the training and test data sets result in huge differences or significant differences, you can say, when it comes to calculating accuracy. So the purpose of holdout evaluation is to test a model on different data than it was trained on. This provides an unbiased estimate of learning performance. In this method, the mostly large dataset is randomly divided into three subsets: training set, validation set, and testing set. So training set is the data set which is used for training. Then validation set is a subset of the data set used to assess the performance of model built in the training phase. It provides a test platform for fine-tuning models parameters and selecting the best performing model. Not all modeling algorithms need a validation set. So a validation set is basically used to decide which is the best performing model, and all of the algorithms do not need a validation set. Then we come to cross validation. When only a limited amount of data is available, to achieve an unbiased estimate of the model performance, we use k-fold cross validation. In k-fold cross validation, we divide the data into k subsets of equal size and called folds. We build models k times, each time leaving out one of the subsets from training and use it as the test set. The k is a user specified number, usually with 5 or 10 as its preferred value. So basically in cross validation, what we do is we take a data set and then divide into equal sets, equal number of sets. Then in each then suppose we have divided the data set into k subsets. So each time we train the model, we leave one of the data sets away, like we leave one of the data sets from the training data set and make it the test data set. So this will require more than one model development, or model we will need more than one model for this, and every time each subset becomes the test data set. So this method is repeated k times, and such that each time one of the k subsets is used as test set or validation set, and the other k minus 1 subsets are put together to form a training set. The error estimation is averaged over all k trials to get the total effectiveness of our model. If k equals the sample size, this is called D1 out. For instance, when performing 5-fold cross validation, the data is first partitioned into 5 parts of approximately equal size. A sequence of models is trained. The first model is trained using the first fold as the test set, and the remaining folds are used as the training set. So the first model is trained using the first fold as the test set, and the remaining folds are used as the training set. This is repeated for each of these 5 slits of the data, and the estimation of accuracy is averaged over all 5 trials to get the total effectiveness of our model. So the accuracy is actually calculated by taking the average of all the accuracies of all the 5 models. As can be seen, every data point gets to be in a test set exactly once and gets to be in a training set k-1 times. This significantly reduces bias as we are using most of the data for fitting. It also significantly reduces variance as most of the data is also being used in the test set. Interchanging the training and test sets also adds to the effectiveness of this method, and it also results in a better trained model. Then classification metrics. Some of the metrics used in classification problems are classification accuracy, confusion matrix, logarithmic loss, area under curve, F measure, model evaluation. Then we come to model evaluation. So it can be divided into 2 sections: classification evaluation and regression evaluation. So confusion matrix, we did a smaller confusion matrix before with false positive and false negative, true positive and true negatives. So this is also a confusion matrix where there is a model, there is a target, then there is a number of true positive, and then b number of true negative, and b number of false positive, then c number of false negative, and d number of true negative. So then positive prediction value will be a divided by a plus b, negative prediction value will be d divided by c plus d. Then sensitivity and specificity will be sensitivity will be a divided by a plus c, and specificity will be d divided by b plus d. Then accuracy is obviously a plus d divided by a plus b plus c plus d. Then we come to gain and lift charts. Gain and lift charts are used to evaluate performance of classification model. Ratio between the results obtained with and without the model. The gain chart and lift chart are 2 measures that are used for measuring the benefits of using the model and are used in business contexts such as target marketing. So the gain charts basically tell us how well the model is performing, and mostly they are used in businesses and for target marketing and all of that. So it basically tells it basically helps us in marketing analytics, and we can also know that which of the 2 models is better. It is used to compare 2 models also. Then it can also be used in other domains such as risk modeling, supply chain analytics, etc. It also helps to find the best predictive model among multiple challenger models. Then confusion matrix works on entire population, but gain and lift charts on proportion of population. So gain and lift charts do not take account of the entire population, they work on a proportion of the population. So gain or lift chart is a measure of effectiveness of classification model, calculated as ratio between the results obtained with and without the model. So in gain and lift charts, we see what is the difference between the results when we use the model and when we do not use the model. So basically you can see here that there are 3 curves here basically, and one is wizard, model, and random. So gain and lift charts are visual aids for evaluating performance of classification models. However, in contrast to the confusion matrix that evaluates models on the whole population, gain or lift charts evaluate model performance in a proportion of population. This I have already told you. So the closer the curve is to the y-axis, the better the model is. So in this case, you can see that this this is the output without the model, and this is the output with the model, and this is a better output obviously. So if the curve goes like this, or it is closer to y-axis, the model is better. Then gain and lift chart are mainly concerned to check the rank ordering of probabilities. Here are the these are the steps to build a gain or lift chart. So first calculate probability for each observation. Then rank these probabilities in decreasing order. Build deciles with each group having almost 10% of the observations. Step 4, calculate the response rate at each deciles for good, bad and total. So suppose a company wants to do a mail marketing campaign. It costs the company $1 for each item mailed. Then they have information on 100,000 customers. Create a cumulative gains and a lift chart from the following data. So we have all of the data here. So then overall response rate, if we assume that we have no model other than the prediction of overall response rate, so then we can predict the number of positive responses as a fraction of the total customers contacted. So we are assuming here that we have no model other than the prediction of overall response rate. So we can predict the number of positive responses as a fraction of the total customers contacted. So here you can see that the cost is 100,000. So total customers that will be contacted are 100,000 only. And the response rate here is 20%, which means we get positive responses from 20,000 people. So how do we work on the prediction of a response model? A response model predicts who will respond to a marketing campaign. If we have a response model, we can make more detailed predictions. For example, we use the response model to assign a score to all 100,000 customers and predict the results of contacting only the top 10,000 customers, the top 20,000 customers, etc. So basically we have a response model which can make more detailed predictions. So we can use the response model to assign a score to all of the customers, and then we can predict the results using only first few customers. So baseline will be, if we contacted X% of the customers, then we will receive X% of the total positive responses. So that will be the baseline. So we'll see the lift curve. Lift curve is actually how much by how much percent the prediction has increased the baseline. So using the predictions of the response model, we will calculate the percentage of positive responses for the percentage of customers contacted and map these on our chart. Okay, so suppose we have 10,000 cost, and so we contacted 10,000 customers and we got positive responses from 6,000 customers. So see, earlier if 10% of the customers contacted, we expect that 10% of the total positive response. So the total positive responses are 20,000 here, as was defined here. So we have total 20,000 total positive responses. So we see that if 10% of the total customers are contacted, then 10% of the total positive responses will be positive, which means that if 10,000 people are contacted, then 2,000 people will respond positively in those 10,000. So that's that's how we assign the baseline. We take 10,000 from the total positive responses. But here we can see these are the positive responses predicted by the model. So we can see here that instead of this we got, instead of 2,000 we got 6,000 responses, which is the 30% of total positive responses. So we plot for 10% customer contacted, we get 30% positive responses. So this is how we keep plotting the curve, and we get a curve like this. If it had been more closer to this y-axis, then it would have been better, but this is also a good model. So the first point, so I have explained this. Then we see this is, the green curve is for positive responses and the blue curve is for negative responses. So this will tell us how the positive and negative responses vary with the percentage of customers contacted. Then we come to the left chart. So to plot the left chart, we calculate the points on the left curve by determining the ratio between the result predicted by our model and uh, the result using no model. So this is also something we try to derive from the gain chart. So basically what we do is we solve that first 10 for 10%, the response was 30%, when without model it was 10% only. So we just divide the increase, which is so we just divide the predicted positive responses by the no model the positive responses with no model. So we divide 30 by 10 and we get 3. So the first point is plotted on 3. So the baseline is 1, it is constant on 1, left is constant, the baseline. Then for the next it is 2.5 and so on, it meets here at 100. So this is the left. The higher the difference between the starting point of baseline and left curve, the better the model is. So the left chart shows how much more likely we are to receive positive responses than we contact a random sample of customers. So for example, by contacting only 10% of the customers based on the predictive model, we will reach 3 times as many responses as as if we use no model. So after then it is KS chart, which we will do in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.